Welcome to the Aligned Life Podcast by yours truly, Dr. Tiffany. How about we get out that magnifying glass and look at every part of your life? The awesome, the suck, and everything in between. There's so much beauty in you. Stop being afraid of what isn't good enough and let's double down on what is together. It's about your truth and your life, aligned. Hey guys, welcome. Today we have Dr. Ali Young. She's a chiropractor in Australia. She's actually the first friend I've ever met that has been in Australia or really anywhere other than North America. So I think this is super awesome. She is an amazing human, and that's what makes her stand out, besides her accent, of course, and a super smart, intelligent mom. She would say mom, and chiropractor. And so I have her on here. We think similar. We take care of a lot of kids. We take care of a lot of women. And I wanted her in here to talk about women, about how stress affects their body, how it affects her outlook, and some of the new programs she's creating for moms who are looking for a tribe. She would call it a hood. I would call it a tribe. So she's offering some awesome online tools for us moms to feel like we are part of a community again amidst all the chaos that's happening in the world right now. So welcome, Ali. Hey guys, today we have Dr. Ali Young. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Tiff.
So I met Dr. Ali. She's a chiropractor in Australia. Gosh, it's been 2 years, right?
Yeah, if not a bit, like 3?
Maybe 3.
I've been back 3 nearly. Yeah.
Oh, it has been.
Yeah.
You're the first Aussie I ever knew and ever met and ever liked. So woo!
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
So she's a chiropractor. She's a family chiropractor, pediatric. I've learned a ton from her. We're not really going to talk about too much of that, except for the fact that we see a ton of stressed moms and a ton of stressed kiddos. And that's really what we're going to talk about. She has launched her little side gig called
Unfck Motherhood.
Unfck Motherhood. It's so good. It's like
so
totally
amazing.
Breaking the rules.
Yeah.
So obviously, as the name describes, she's trying to really break down the suck and try to, let's all come together, create a community, right? And better take personal responsibility for our life and figure out how we can do this thing so that it's a little bit more enjoyable. So let's dig in. I want you to just talk about what inspired you to do that after so many years being in your practice, working face to face with all these, as you would say, mums. I call them moms.
We say it with a U, mum.
I know. We are old. Old.
You are along, especially you guys.
I know.
West Fargo people. I might drop in a y'all every now and then just so I feel like I'm part of the States. So for me, I am so used to working with mums in practice that have the same stress happening all the time. And I think this is my 19th year in practice, I was like, you know what, if I'm seeing this, and it's amplifying every year. And of course, this year has just made it so much worse. So if I'm seeing this continuing to amp up in generational women, then this is a bigger thing than just what I see in my practice, because you see it in the States and my friends see it in Perth, in WA, Australia, and, you know, everyone sees it around the world. It's not a new thing. And the element of health that mums are presenting with these days are so chronically driven from that stress place and from that place of frustration, overwhelm but underwhelmed, like this whole level of things. It's massively impacting on their health and the enjoyment that they can have with their life. So I'm really I really just feel like there's so much more to tell mums out there, which is, and help them actually figure out how to have some fun with it all.
Absolutely. Well, and just like you, like, so we're in a similar practice. We can adjust them, but we really can't work on all this other stuff that you want to say, right? And
not every visit.
Every visit, right? I mean, there's something every time that you feel like, oh, if she just could take this and go do this, or let go of this. And so that's really why you created a container, right? For all these women.
Exactly right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the thing for me is because I lived in Australia, obviously my whole life. And then I got pregnant. I was married, got pregnant, and we moved overseas to a country where I knew nobody. So I had this band of 3. At that point in time, there was 3 of us living, women whose husbands all worked together. I was pregnant, and the other 2 there's 3 or 4 more. Anyway, not many. And they had kids, and that was it. That was my tribe. So my tribe had gone from this huge, extensive group of women that I'd beautifully grown with in Perth, and then moved to Malaysia, and it suddenly shrunk. And it was really isolating. And then went back to Perth and had a birth that wasn't great and nothing like I imagined it could be, especially from a chiropractic perspective. That's a whole other story. And then moved 2.5 weeks later with my newborn baby, who weighed 2.5 kilos at birth at overdue, right? And my husband back to Malaysia, where I was back in this bubble of hardly knowing anyone and navigating new motherhood. So whilst I worked with babies, the actual being in it was really hard. It was really hard. And the isolation was huge. So then we eventually moved back to Australia, and I got to join an Aussie mums group, and that was amazing. Then I started practicing again. Then I got pregnant again. Then I had another babe. And so then I had 2 kids under 2. That was brilliant for a while. And then we moved. I actually really enjoyed it. I think I'm a sucker. What? And then, I did. Of course, there were moments, don't get me wrong. But my second kid slept and my first didn't. So, hey, we were always winning from day one with number 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we moved overseas again. So then we moved to South Korea. But this expat community was like moving to a beautiful tribe of women that had already been there longer than us. And it was amazing, the support that we had. And I feel like coming back to Australia, we moved back to the same town that we'd been in central Queensland. We live on the coast. I'm 100 metres to the beach. We live in a beautiful location. I have great friends, a good support network, and beautiful other mums that I know. But we're all busy in our own lives and doing things, so that tribe isn't as strong as it possibly could be. And I feel that we have lost a bit of that in Australia. And I know that's not just Australia. And so part of it is really getting the hood back into motherhood. So actually creating your peeps again and getting your tribe back together, and knowing that to journey as a mother, it works so much better when you've got people to bounce through and people to bounce concepts often with and stuff like that. So it's that, and empowering women to make changes that make their motherhood experience different to where it's been.
Yeah. Okay. Can we talk about isolation and what isolation does to a mom, what it does to their family, what it does to your health, what it does to your confidence?
So
make it normal.
In caveat land, I haven't been isolated. So we are in a part of the world that through different things, we've actually not had one COVID case in our town that I'm aware of. So that's amazing. There's parts of Australia that are in stage 4 lockdown at the moment, and they're not allowed to leave their house. And that's where my family live. And that is hard, because you're suddenly going from having your normal day-to-day routines that you do to having to reimagine how your day might look. And you can't go out 3 times a day to get things, because you're only allowed to leave your house once per day. And so you can go to the supermarket and you can do exercise and you can go to a medical doctor, and they're the only reasons you can leave your house.
That's awful. So, we are also very conservative. So we don't have, you kind of forget what's happening in the world.
I know. And it's hard. It's really hard. And it's hard to, so if you're an essential worker, you can go. So my understanding is that my chiropractic friends can still practice, but in a very different way to how they perhaps would normally choose to, but they are still open. But their kids can't go to anywhere. So they have to look after them in the house. So if they're a husband-wife chiropractor, they have to navigate that. If they're not, then they have to figure that out. Like they can't get a babysitter in. You can't go to someone else's house. So that loss of community is massive. Yeah. And I think we rely on our mums within our community to, I'm not sure if validate is the right word, but we connect with similar people to each other because we're on a path together, and spending time with each other, we bounce ideas, and it's so much easier to do that face-to-face than it is through Zoom. So the mental health challenges are just massive. And it's that chronic underlying stress that's driving changes in prefrontal cortexes and making behaviors change. And my great concern is that this level of stress that we're all having subacutely, even here, is going to manifest for years, if not generations, about the way that we do things. Like my son, at school, they wash their hands all the time, which is great. But now he is obsessed with washing his hands. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. I mean, it's not a bad thing to be obsessed with. It's not like super obsessed, but it's a definite behavior change. And they're not going to see my parents for 2 years now because of border lockdowns and stuff like that. So, so the changes in relationships in families that are separated is huge.
Yeah, our world has just seen the start of a fracture, right? And as we know how fractures work, it's going to be years of struggles.
Exactly.
So for those who aren't chiropractors and don't know what the prefrontal cortex is, you just whip that word out like,
So there's this part of our brain, and it's so amazing, and it lives inside our front part of, above our eyebrows, on the inside, forehead. Basically.
We call that forehead.
Forehead. But everyone else in my family calls it a forehead, but I'm sticking to what my grandma taught me, and it's a forehead. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
In the forehead. And that is a part of our brain that modulates our behavior to the outside world, how we respond to various stimuli. It can get amped up with our fight-flight response. It can get rested with our rest and digest response. It can shift, not permanently, I guess, but semi-permanently into one of those phases to change the way we function. But it also has impact on immunity and the way we view our world. And so if we can get our prefrontal into a beautiful, calmer place, then we can know that we can navigate the world a lot differently than if we can't.
Okay, so what does stress do to the prefrontal cortex? How does that affect, like, isolation? Everybody's experiencing some sort of isolation, right? Whether it's true lockdown or just our normal is different. I would also say that there's a lot of isolation in the extreme views, right? So like this time, whether it's politics or COVID, or people are typically far right or far left, there's not much gray anymore. And so you're finding people are struggling with isolation, like the friends that they used to have now are in a different direction or a different mindset than them, and they can't really relate anymore. So can you talk about how stress affects our ability to view the world?
Yeah, so when we're stressed, we lose the ability, and this is my understanding, to move with a mirror capability within our brain cells. So when we're not stressed, we can empathically read the person with us, and we have an ability to read our situation around us. So I guess like intuition, right?
Yeah.
And when we're stressed, all those things bunker down and our body goes into survival mode. So to survive, we go back to doing things that are self-serving primarily, because that's how we survive. And it's not a conscious awareness often, it's a subconscious thing.
Yes, it's not self-dish, ladies.
No, I'm not saying that you're selfish.
Exactly.
But I'm saying, y'all, see there I go, throw it in.
Y'all.
But what you're doing is you're changing your brain in a way that instead of being open, aware of your environment, it's got a closed element or framework to it, I guess is the best description of it in an easy to understand way. So our heart rate will be higher. Our oxygen, we won't be taking in as much oxygen because we're in a slightly stressed out spots. And we probably won't be sleeping well because our subconscious brain is ramped up a little bit. So we'll often have a cortisol impact where we wake at, 3, 4, 5 a.m. out of the blue. And those sorts of changes just over time sort of sneak in, because it's not like a whoa most of the time. It's a slow bleed of stress on the body.
Yep.
I
would add, women listening, the agitation, irritation, right? With everything. I mean, it could be your kids, it could be your partner, it could be the traffic, it could be your boss, it could be anything. And that is when a lot of, like, at least women for me will say, like, I feel totally crazy. What is going on? I mean, do I need to go to the
mental health unit?
Exactly. Yes. Because they feel, you feel, whoever's listening, but different in your skin. Like you don't feel like yourself. And that's the cumulative effects of stress that we don't even realize as women, because we just continue to grind.
And you just go and you go and you go and you go and you never stop. And sometimes it's scary to stop because you're not actually sure what stopping is going to mean as well.
It's totally true.
Yeah, it's way too scary to stop. So I'll just keep doing these things, because stopping, I'm going to have to maybe be introspective about myself.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's the, I think of you looking at the whole person, not only if they're on your chiropractic table, but when you're looking at mentoring these group of women, of being able to help them get the magnifying glass to see what they're kick ass at instead of what they suck at, right?
Yeah, exactly. So right.
How do people, when they're uncomfortable, not thinking they kick ass at anything, how do they have the courage to find a tribe that you have just described as to what you want to create?
Yeah. So I think finding the tribe at the moment is often in an online world, because unless you've already got a connected community somewhere that you can go and jump in with, which is great. And people's tribes are changing, like you said. Like the people that we all used to hang out with were often sort of like, actually, you know what? I'm going to choose to do something different here. And that's great. Yeah. So the tribe, I think you just need to find, if you want face-to-face connection, well, list down the kind of people you want in your tribe. Who is it that you actually want to hang out with? And from there go, well, where do I find those people in my community? Do I need to go hang out at the health food store like a bad smell? Do I need to find a play group of like-minded mums? Do I need to go and find an online group and start there? So you can find it in many different ways, and it's just a matter of navigating that, I guess, to get there.
What do you think the biggest challenge is in motherhood?
Ooh, I think it's a combination of two things: control and time. Because before we're mums, generally, we are in control of what we do every single part of our day. And I know this was very true for me, but losing what I felt was control, because I suddenly had this little human and they needed me all the And I'd also lost my identity because I wasn't practicing. And I'd built my whole identity around work. Was a huge shift for me. So learning that whilst you don't have the same level of control that you might have normally, having that shift into controlling small parts of your day. I am now in control of going to this bathroom by myself, and I'm locking the door and not talking to anybody. Tick, win, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It is.
And there are so many things in your day that you can just take a little bit back. And that is soul saving, because that allows you to then look at time as well. Because the other thing that I hear is that mums don't have time for self-care. Like they don't know where to make that. And look, when you've got infants and newborns, I find is easier than 6 months to 2 years, most definitely. Because 6 months to 2 years, it's a lot harder to find time to get self-care, but you can still do it. It just depends what your self-care is, but you need to prioritize that. Right. And I think that learning that it's not selfish to do that is actually one of the most important things.
So can we talk about control?
Yeah. What would you like to talk about? I'll just get comfy.
Yeah. Well, it's what everybody needs, but nobody wants to admit. So
exactly right. It's so true. Hey,
how do we, I always talk about the shadow self of us, that the dark part that we don't want to let anyone into. And then I always talk about that will never freaking heal if you keep hiding that stuff. So how do we get to the point that we can say, yep, I totally have a control problem. Lord, I apologize.
I'm very sorry for this.
Yes, exactly.
It's the 8th deadly sin, I think.
Yeah.
Totally. So, I think that you come to a realization that you really actually control nothing. Like really, the way the world and the universe works, we don't really control anything. But what we do is have elements of choice around our day and around our time spent and around how we respond to things and how we react to things. And I think that's where maybe we try to create outcomes that we want to see at the end of the day. So the outcome might be happy, fed, healthy children and a clean house and everything's ready and put away by the end of the day. So you're trying to control your environment because that makes you feel safe inside. And there's an element where you need to go, actually, we may not be able to control all of those things. Like if your kid gets sick, you know what? Illness is just an expression that their body's doing the right thing and having a virus, right? We know that. Right. So that happens. And some days you've got to sit on the couch and cuddle your babe. That's all you've got to do. And so that is a completely different outset of control compared to what it could be. So I guess those sorts of journeys are part of the process of motherhood. And it's one of the great things about being a mum is that you actually learn those things as you go, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, they go through their stages and their developmental when they're supposed to, right? I mean, we need them to walk when they're supposed to walk because, I think no matter what, puberty happens when it's supposed to happen for them and us. Leaving after high school happens, that same thing. So how do you see, I'm just curious, how does it show up in our bodies?
I feel like when we're super stressed, worried, anxious, control-y, let's put that in one big bubble together. We really get an overload of those accessory muscles. So we get the tension through the shoulders and through the neck. We get the clamp of the skull onto the spine. We'll often get recurrent headaches, jaw clenching, and the sleep, I think, is a big factor. And
Women,
I feel that.
Do you hear that?
Just saying.
Listen up. God. Instead of what's the common thing everybody says? Well, I just carry all my stress right
in my shoulders. And it's that old theme, the weight of the world on your shoulders. Well, actually, like physiologically is, because we're getting ready to fight against an unknown threat. So our shoulders lift, we lean forward, we lose our head posture, and we're trying to move forward in the world and sneak around and get ready to run fast. And so we do this, and we tighten ourselves up, and then that becomes your normal, and then you can't actually untighten it. Yes.
So true. And that becomes your thoughts. So you become rigid. It becomes your actions. You either are like running like roadrunner into the wall the whole time, or you're procrastinating, or you're stuck in quicksand. It becomes how you behave, how you interact with your spouses. And then really, like, I think of how so many times people will say, this is just my personality. No, it's not. No. Like, you weren't meant to be this.
Yeah.
Well, that's how my mom is, and that's how my grandma is. And well, that's how your kid is going to be watching you being a stressy Susie.
Yeah, totally.
How do you, what are some tips you give mamas to create awareness around waking up?
I do a lot of work with my mums around breath. So actually taking 5 minutes to consciously be aware of where their body is, how it feels, how they're breathing. Because I think if we can tap into that once a day for 5 minutes, it shifts a cycle in your brain, and it actually triggers those parasympathetics to become aware. And I also encourage my mums to move a lot. Like, they've really got to move their bodies. It's really vital, because we move, but because we're busy. But I'm busy chasing a kid all day. That's not movement. That's life. Movement is actually consciously moving your body to re-energize your brain, release those happy hormones, get your system environmentally aware again, and you'll notice you're a different human after it. And they're, I guess, the big two. And drink water. Come on, ladies.
Come on. Ice in your cocktail at night doesn't work.
No. The tonic water with your gin doesn't count.
That does not count. By the way, that would taste terrible. That tastes terrible.
We're not friends anymore.
Yeah, well, that's just terrible.
Although we probably won't be able to see each other face to face for like 2 or 3 years. So, hey, I'll just keep working on it.
Right. Is that really what's going to happen, do you think?
I don't know. I'm not thinking about it. It makes me sad.
Okay, let's not do that.
No.
Okay, what can people do to follow you, to become part of your tribe?
Yeah, so they can go, I've got a Facebook page. Now, Unfck is spelt without the second U. So UNFCK, Motherhood. So I've got a Facebook page. I've got an Insta. I do a bit more on Insta than I do on Facey. I love a bit of the gram. I love Insta stories. And my website is called Dr. Ali Young, DrAliyoung.com. And I've actually got a free 5-day mama challenge starting on Monday. So if they do /challenge after that, they'll get into that. And then you get into the hood. So I've actually created a tribe of women where we can all connect with each other. Online, it's a safe space for sharing, and I share tips in there all the time. And it's all about just getting back to yourself, to get back to your motherhood journey, and creating that beautiful tribe of women together. So that's called the Hood for Unfucked Motherhood.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what is your definition of the Unfck part?
Oh, right. Yeah. I'm like, hey, what? So my definition of that, I guess, is a mum who is connected, resilient, aware of herself, and knows how to serve her family by serving herself first.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because many are none of those. And they're not even aware that they aren't any of those.
Exactly.
They know something's off, right? We're intuitive beings. So
yeah, but they're just not sure why it's off.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And what to do.
Yeah, yeah. And so I feel very strongly that if we can create a large community of women who've made that choice, then this generation and follow-on generations are going to have completely different patterns to what we all were exposed to, with busyness being rewarded and rest being admonished, which I think is one of the biggest issues that we see these days. And then we're getting forced rest and we feel like we're bad people through isolation. And that's definitely not true, people. Not true.
Okay, so you said busyness is rewarded, rest is
admonished.
Oh my gosh, so good. That this is the it's the martyrdom of motherhood.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right?
Mother. Yep.
It's so good. And then we get I always talk about, we have these universal pokes that we're given. The pokes are meant just to be a quick redirect, like poke, tip, like, oh gosh, that is not what I want to say, or that's not what I want to do. Well, the longer that we don't listen to the pokes, they become nudges, and then they become the Mack truck that just runs you over. So yes,
exactly.
It's the forced stress. So let's just take out COVID, but it's I got really sick. I lost my job. I mean, something is so disconnected for so long that bam, you have no opportunity but to just listen.
Yeah. And I mean, at the start of this year, I had a health challenge, which was from all those things. And I realized that I hadn't even been listening to my own self. And I think the reason I've amped all this up this year is because, well, if someone like myself who is so aware still ends up there, then what about all the mums who have no awareness around that and where they are?
Yeah.
So that's really made me conscious of getting some shift for mums.
Yeah, I love that, because that is, we totally need a tribe of curiosity, of stories, not judgment, not control, not this is how it needs to be, but how can we come together and support each other? And you have to start with yourself first, right?
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, do you want to leave all of these peeps with anything?
I think that the biggest thing I want to leave them with is not to feel bad about making time for themselves. I think that the resilience that we have as a mother is massive if we even just recognize that within ourselves and take the time to even write it down, how great you are and what amazing things you've done this year for your family. Start there. That's easier. And then move into what amazing things have you done for yourself. And if there's a disparity, start working on shifting that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that, because we can always think about our impact with our family a lot easier than we can ourselves, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
How many times we do things for our kids and not for us.
Yeah.
But little do we know, we still did it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, thanks, Al.
Thank you.
I so appreciate your expertise, your years of working with women. I think we're very alike in our approach and our leadership to bring groups of women together so that we can talk about all this stuff that sucks. It sucks. Yeah. And it's beautiful all at the same time. So, how can we as individuals not ever be afraid of putting everything on the table, right? Yeah. Doesn't mean we deal with it all at the same time, but let's get it on the table so we're not hiding anymore and step into a better version of who we are, whatever that means. Anyone listening knows what that means. They know what they're aiming for. So
yeah, absolutely.
So thanks for your advice. Thanks for your leadership.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening and following the Aligned Life podcast with Dr. Tiffany. If you love this and can think of anyone who needs to hear about it, would you mind sharing with them? Find me online at drtiffanyjohnson.com, where you can find out more about my memberships, courses, mentoring, and any upcoming events. To learn more about chiropractic for you and your family, go to htchiro.com and follow our social pages. I can't wait to connect with you soon, and until then, be you, be aligned.